Okay, let's talk about our workplaces. It turns out something you probably walk past every single day, maybe without even noticing it, might actually be kind of secretly shaping how you think and behave. Yeah, I'm talking about the humble office plant. So, can that fern on the filing cabinet or the succulent on your desk actually make you a more environmentally conscious employee? I know, it sounds a little out there, but you're going to want to hear the science on this one. And this isn't just a wild guess. We're actually diving into a brand new study from the Management Research Review. These researchers set out to solve this exact mystery, and they did it with some serious scientific rigor. So, before we get to the juicy results, we gotta get on the same page. What were the researchers actually looking for? Let's break down the key ideas. First up, our main clue. The official term they use is workplace greenery. And get this, it's not just about real, live plants. For this study, it meant any natural element. So we're talking live plants, sure, but also artificial ones, or even just pictures of nature hanging on the wall. And this is what they were measuring: employee green behavior. This isn't just about feeling more eco-friendly. It's about actually doing things, taking real action. Things like making sure you recycle, encouraging your coworkers to turn off their monitors, or even pushing your company to switch to greener products. So, how did they even figure this out? Well, to get a reliable answer, they couldn't just ask people one time. No, they had to see how things changed over a good stretch of time. And that's exactly what they did. This was a pretty serious study. They followed hundreds of white-collar workers for 9 whole months. They checked in at different points to see if one thing led to another, basically to track that chain reaction from just seeing a plant to actually acting greener. Now, you might be wondering how many people actually stuck with it for that long. Well, after starting with a bigger group, they ended up with 283 super dedicated employees who completed every single part of the 9-month study. And that's what makes the data so solid.
Okay, now here is where it gets really, really interesting. The answer wasn't a simple, yep, plants make people greener. Oh no, it's way more fascinating than that. It all comes down to a specific part of your personality. It turns out whether an office plant affects you or not depends almost entirely on this trait called nature-relatedness. So what is that? It's basically how much you feel connected to the natural world. Think of it as a core part of who you are, almost like being an introvert or an extrovert, but for your relationship with nature. A really good way to picture it is like you have this personal nature meter inside of you. For some of us, that meter is dialed way up. We feel a really deep bond with the outdoors. For others, it's set lower, and they just don't have that same strong connection. And this one little difference, it turned out to be the key to the entire puzzle. And this is where we get the big reveal, because it turns out the plants did work on everyone, but for completely different reasons. It wasn't one single effect. It was 2 totally separate paths leading to the same eco-friendly behavior. This quote from the study is basically the solution to the whole mystery. It tells us that for people with low nature-relatedness, the effect is direct. Bam. See a plant, act greener. But for people high in nature-relatedness, there's a middle step, and it's all about their own personal well-being. So you've got these 2 different groups of people, right? The ones who don't feel super connected to nature, and the ones who really do. The amazing part is that both groups end up acting greener, but the mental journey they take to get there is completely different. All right, let's look at path number 1. This is for the employees whose nature meter is set low. For them, the process is super straightforward. They see the plants in the office, and those plants just act like a little visual reminder, a subtle cue that says, hey, around here, we're the kind of people who care about the environment. And that direct little nudge is enough to change their behavior. But for the nature lovers, the people with a high nature meter, the process is totally different. They see the plants, and because of that deep connection they have, it gives them a genuine boost in their own happiness and well-being. The study showed that this little mood lift gives them the extra energy to act on the green values they already have. So basically, they feel good, and that helps them do good. So what does all this mean in the real world? For a boss, a manager, anyone trying to run a company? This isn't just some fun psychology fact. It's actually a super practical and powerful double win. The researchers actually call this a double dividend. With just one pretty cheap investment, adding some plants, a company gets 2 amazing benefits. It nudges the people who aren't naturally eco-friendly to act greener, and it makes the employees who already care about the environment happier, which then powers them to do even more. And that just leaves us with one final big question.
If something as simple as a potted plant can have such a complex effect on us, what else in our environment is shaping our behavior? Think about your office, your home. What other tiny things are subtly guiding your choices every single day without you even noticing?